Alright guys, got the N64 set up here. And why would I have the N64 set up? That's because I wanted to show you my recent get, the Everdrive 64. Those of you who have been paying attention to any of my previous videos will know that I'm a big fan of the Everdrive flash carts. And that's because I've been buying these backup and flash cart devices for about 10 or 15 years now. And they've definitely come a long way. These are really the pinnacle of flash cart technology. These are awesome. The previous flash card I had for the N64 was called the Z64, this giant black box that sat on top of the unit, and it had a zip drive on the front, and you had to plug an original cartridge in on the side to use the security chip. It was just this big glitchy mess, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Some other flash cards that I've had for other systems, you had to program through the parallel interface, so you had to hook it up to the parallel port on your PC and hope that the flashing writing process actually completed successfully, because if it didn't, your flash cart would no longer function, and it was a real hassle to get it working again. But those days, those dark ages are long over, and now, thank goodness, we have the Everdrive cartridges. So we'll take a look at this one, the Everdrive 64. Go ahead and pull it out of the system here. And I've managed to get a... There we go. Door was stuck for a second. Fixed now. Alright, so the Everdrive 64. Now I bought just the plain PCB. I didn't buy it in the cartridge like this. So that means I had to sacrifice a game, which was, don't worry, it wasn't anything fancy. It was NFL 98 or 99, one of those. So I sacrificed the cartridge, cut the hole in the top for the SD card. And surprisingly, I thought I was going to have to print my own label, but I ordered this from Retrogate, which I think is directly from the gentleman who makes these. And I was supplied these labels that go on the front and back. So that was kind of handy. Didn't expect to get that. So it definitely looks a lot nicer. Go ahead and I've got the screws out already. So we'll pop the case off. Alright, as labeled on the tin, front side on this side, which is the solder side. You got your SD card slot here. Nice little Everdrive logo in the corner. And on the back side, or the parts side, we've got a couple of FPGAs, or field programmable gate arrays, and these are basically programmable chips. So I assume this is where a lot of the magic happens with reading and writing the ROMs and running the operating system and so forth. So I have no idea what functions these provide, since they are custom chips. Got a small amount of memory here. Not sure what the size is. I'm sure you guys could look up that part number and find out. And then we've got flash memory here, which is actually where the game is written to. And this is incredibly fast, by the way. As you'll see, the games load very, very quickly, which is a contrast to some of the original Everdrive cartridges for the Genesis and the Mega Drive, which in some cases would take 30 seconds to a full minute to erase and write the game to the cartridge. So these are the process has really gotten down a lot faster, and these things are very efficient. Down here, this is a very important chip. This is the Nintendo Security Chip, or the CIC chip, and you have to have this for the game to actually work, or any game in the N64. Every N64 game has this chip, and there are two major variants between NTSC and PAL regions, so you have to make sure that you match the CIC chip with the region of your console. Interestingly enough, this one actually has the Everdrive logo. Maybe I'll see it. Get the lighting on it. Focus is off. But it actually has the Everdrive logo etched into the chip, which is pretty interesting. I'll have to inquire about that, because normally this would have the Nintendo logo on it with, you know, copyright 96 and so forth and so on. You can either buy these from Retrogate and they will solder it in like I did, or you can pull one out of another cartridge, like I could have pulled one from the NFL game and pillaged it from there and then soldered it in myself. So either way, you have to have this for it to work. So we'll plug this into the N64. Make sure front side is at the front. Alright, so when you first boot it up, you are greeted with this nice little operating system, and it's got a Everdrive 64 logo with the controller in the background. This is actually the default image. You can change this to anything that you want. There are certain parameters, like it has to be a certain format and certain size. I don't know the specifics, but you guys could probably look it up and see what that is. So open this ED64 directory, and first thing I'll show you is a hardware demo, and this was actually written by a gentleman by the name of Marshall H. You may have seen him on some of the forums about, he does a lot of hardware hacking with the N64, very knowledgeable with the N64, and also writes software, and this was one of the demos that he wrote for the Midwest Gaming Convention in 2011. And this is one of my favorite things to do with these flashcards, believe it or not, is run a lot of these homebrew demos and hardware demos on the original hardware. You'll find if you look on a lot of my SD cards, you'll see a lot of unusual stuff. In the case of the Super Nintendo, for example, you'll see like the Satellaview games and things that really it would be nearly impossible to find in a cartridge format that you could purchase. That's really where these Everdrive cartridges come in handy. So this is basically just a tech demo, and running right on the original N64. And this is the only demo that I'm aware of for the N64. There's not a lot of them, because the N64, from what I gather, I'm not a programmer by any stretch, but it can be very difficult to program for. So pretty impressive work here. While this file is relatively small, I'll load up a larger game here in just a few minutes, a retail game, and you can see how fast even some of the larger games load. It's very impressive. Alright, so let's reset it. Alright, back in the menu. So let's load up, let's see what we got here. Let's try some Sin and Punishment. Ah, see, I love it. That's so fast. I should hook up my original Everdrive just for comparison. So here's a retail game running on the N64. Obviously this was not released in the United States. Considered one of the top games for the N64, outside of the first party games. Not that I can play this with one hand or anything. Alright, so basically that's it. That's a look at the Everdrive 64. Another great flash cart in the Everdrive series. I think seems like almost every cartridge-based system now has one of these available. At least the mainstream ones. Obviously, your Super ACAN is not going to have an Everdrive yet, but who knows? Maybe that'll happen. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching, and hope you enjoyed.